Peter, and thanks everyone. So yeah, as Peter said, the first step is really defining these 12 hazards, but in fact, those hazards are more than just hazards, are an entire set of policies and like rules that we want the AI to follow. So I will start talking about that and the process that we followed to get there. And I'm saying this on behalf of the entire work stream one that has been collaborating, and in particular, Brian Fuller, Ether Phrase, and Ziad Resad are the main contributors. So the hardest challenge when we build these kind of measurements is for people to trust them, right? Like Peter explained how we want the community to start using these systems, but they will not use them unless they trust them. So for obtaining trust, you have to build something that people can understand, that is simple enough to understand, that engineers can build, and that the industry can afford, not just you know, like the large corporations, but that everyone can run it and understand it. So when we think about the problem of building something that people can trust in relation to safety specifically, is that we needed to find the right balance between accepting a level of risk and accepting the capabilities of the model. So usually when we have more, like a higher risk factor, it means that the model is more capable. It can answer more things, it can achieve more stuff, but some of this stuff is going to be dangerous. On the other hand, if we create a black box that always answers no to everything, it's going to be, by design, super safe, but it's also going to be completely useless. So finding this balance, it's really like the key to success. Besides the risk factors, also understanding the cultural expectations of everyone in the world is also a big challenge. So when we decided to create policies that follow regulations, we necessarily need to understand which regulations we want to follow. So it could be that we go for a hyper-local approach in which we create a billion different benchmarks for every single city or region in the world or cultural group. Or we can decide to have a one-size-fits-all and expect the entire planet to follow our rules. Obviously, both of these approaches are not really functional, right? The hyper-local approach is not a standard by definition, and it's also very difficult to implement, if not impossible, if you wanted to build a model that is released internationally at the same time. On the other hand, the one-size-fits-all is going to make a lot of people unhappy, and they will not feel represented in the set of policies that we are building. So to find the right balance for that, what we did was to try and follow the approach of normative laws that are an approximate set of policies that have been suggested for recreating a society when a society breaks down. So it really comes down to the basic of humans' expectation for mutual respect and mutual safety. So the result is the 12 categories that Peter mentioned that are represented here. So we have like physical and non-physical hazards that we are expecting every system to abide to, because we always want systems to not create hazards that can be of physical nature or non-violent nature to people. And then we also added, for now, just two of what we call contextual hazards. Contextual hazards mean that are hazards that are not always hazards. It really depends on the situations and the context where they are appearing. So, for example, sexual content, it's something that if you are building an application that is aimed at children, you probably don't want the sexual content to appear, and you will consider it an hazard. But if you want to create an entertainment application for adults, then maybe that is an okay thing to have. So it really depends on your application, and what we are trying to do in the way that is also displayed in the results that Peter showed is really give the power of interpretation to the users that will understand, okay, this hazards is really a problem for my application, and therefore I need to do something about, or not, or vice versa. One thing that also to consider is that the prompt types that we have been using to do the testing for these categories are of two types. So far, it's the naive users, so someone that is not trying to break the model or do anything nefarious, but might receive a hazardous answer. And that is really bad, right? Like, this is really what we want to avoid, and therefore it's important to test. But the most frequent situation is when people are trying to misuse the system. And then, so that is what we do with the knowledgeable users that understand how to prompt models to try and obtain what they want around the safety measurements. So the taxonomy is more than just a taxonomy. It's not just a list of things, but it really comes to what we call the assessment standard. It has three main components to it. One is indeed the taxonomy. The other one is the definitions that we are, of each single word, basically, that we are using in taxonomy. When we say things like endorsing, or promoting, or accepting, what do we really mean with these words in a way that people can understand, and if you need to create new annotations, you can always go back to the policies that we have written. And then a guidance that is really much more detailed on how to create the prompts and how to evaluate the responses at a really more detailed point with examples and such. And then for the